Every nation in the world carries debt. The United States alone now owes more than $38 trillion, a number never seen before. The European Union is in the red with roughly $14 trillion. Japan, nearly $9 trillion. Even wealthy oil states like Saudi Arabia or industrial giants like Germany and China hold massive debts. But here's the puzzle. If everyone owes money, who is really the lender? This is the financial historian, where money, influence, and history meet, and nothing is ever straightforward. Debt isn't just a burden. It's the hidden framework of our modern world. Every war, every economic crisis, every boom and bust rests on this invisible structure. If you trace the network of creditors far enough, you'll find something surprising. The world doesn't really owe money to any single entity. It owes it to itself. Yet, this doesn't mean the benefits are shared equally. Some prosper, while others bear most of the burden. To grasp how our world ended up buried under over $315 trillion in debt, almost 3 times the size of the global economy, we need to revisit history long before credit cards or online transfers existed. National debt was born on the battlefield. In 1694, England was at war with France and running low on gold. The king turned to wealthy merchants for funds. In return for a continuous stream of interest backed by future taxes, the crown received financing, and the Bank of England was born to manage it. It was revolutionary. The state could now spend money it didn't yet have, while lenders gained something priceless, a government-backed promise that could be traded. This marked the birth of the government bond, the foundation of today's financial system. France copied the model. The Netherlands refined it. When the United States gained independence, it adopted bonds to fund the revolution and later expansion westward. Borrowing became a sign of credibility, not failure. The power to lend was now the power to govern. Empires once conquered lands to seize gold. Now they issue bonds to capture interest. The battlefield shifted from land to ledgers. 3 centuries later, debt has become the world's main export. The United States owes $38 trillion, Japan over $9 trillion, and the world's borrowing grows by roughly $1 trillion every 100 days. Every nation owes, every bank lends. Every citizen, through taxes and savings, is both debtor and creditor. But who actually holds the other end? Half of America's debt is public, owed to investors rather than the government itself. Most of these investors are domestic: banks, pension funds, insurance companies, and the Federal Reserve. The remaining third, about $9 trillion, belongs to foreign hands. Japan holds around $1 trillion, China roughly $800 billion, followed by the UK, Luxembourg, and Belgium. So while some claim the US owes China, that's only about 2% of total debt. Most of it, America owes America. The Treasury issues bonds. Banks and funds buy them. Often the Federal Reserve steps in, buying them back and creating new dollars in the process. Debt, in this sense, is a continuous cycle, internal yet global, personal yet systemic. Americans pay taxes, and a significant portion of that money goes to interest on government bonds. These payments often return to citizens' retirement accounts, creating a cycle, a reflection of the same system. But this circular system isn't unique to the U.S. Japan lends to America through treasuries. The U.S. lends to Europe via the IMF. Europe extends credit to developing nations through the World Bank. And those nations lend back by holding foreign reserves and Western bonds. It's like a global game of hot potato, except the potato is made of promises. Every country holds another country's IOU, and every promise is secured by yet another promise. Think of it like a poker table. Each player borrows chips from the next, and the game continues as long as no one stands up. But above all, the real power lies with the markets themselves. Behind every government bond sits a network of institutions: hedge funds, pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, and central banks managing tens of trillions in assets. They control credit, who can borrow cheaply, and who pays a premium to survive. Democracy decides who governs, but markets decide who survives. Central banks are the ultimate arbiters. They don't just manage debt, they create it. Every time the Federal Reserve or ECB buys bonds, new money is created. Every dollar in circulation represents a debt somewhere else. Coins, bills, even digital dollars carry an invisible IOU. This loop has existed for decades, sustained by confidence. As long as investors believe governments will pay interest, the system keeps turning, but confidence can falter. In Greece, 2010, debt became unpayable. Bondholders panicked, yields soared, and international institutions intervened. But the rescue came with austerity, tax hikes, spending cuts, and unemployment. In countries like Argentina and Sri Lanka, repeated defaults and shortages turned debt into a national burden. Political collapse, economic hardship, and scarcity followed when governments couldn't meet their obligations. When a financial system finally cracks, the people behind the money suddenly step into the light. The IMF, credit rating agencies, and the unseen investors who can squeeze entire nations. Yet even after a collapse, the same cycle restarts. Old loans are replaced with new ones, and failed debts are reshaped and renamed. In today's world, government debt isn't meant to be repaid. It's meant to be renewed over and over. Unlike personal loans, governments treat debt like an ongoing subscription, rolling it forward instead of closing it. What really matters is the interest, the fee we pay for stability. The global economy now breathes through this interest flow, like a shark that must keep swimming to stay alive. The United States will never clear its $38 trillion debt. Japan won't erase its massive debt either. These amounts are simply rolled forward endlessly. Investors don't want repayment. They want the cycle to continue because government bonds are the safest collateral on Earth. If the U.S. suddenly paid off all its debt, global markets would lose their most stable asset, and the dollar system would implode. So governments keep issuing new debt, not recklessly, but rhythmically, like a heartbeat that keeps capitalism alive. That's why promises to pay down the debt are political theater. The real goal is to keep it manageable, believable, and desirable to investors. Because once confidence disappears, the math no longer matters. Markets panic, interest rates explode, and economies built on rolling promises crash. That's the hidden truth of sovereign debt. The plan was never full repayment. The plan is to keep everyone believing repayment is possible. But this belief is not shared equally. Interest payments rise upward, from ordinary citizens toward powerful institutions that actually hold the debt. In today's world, debt is more than money moving between countries. It's a quiet flow of power between different groups in society. That's why global inequality grows alongside global borrowing. Those who hold debt gain strength, while those who must repay it carry the weight. From families to nations, and from nations to the entire world, the same pattern repeats. Creditors aren't heroes or villains. Debtors aren't simply weak or powerless. They're both part of the same global machine. The trouble begins when the machine slows down, when new loans can't keep up with old promises. And that's when the question, who is the creditor, stops being theoretical. It becomes personal. Because at the top of the global financial system, there isn't one face to point to. It's not just China, or Wall Street, or the IMF. It's a web that includes all of them, and all of us. Debt has become a kind of money. Governments create it, banks expand it, investors trade it, and ordinary people rely on it. The divide between debtor and creditor has faded almost completely. Debt once meant chains. Today, it means balance, an illusion that works only as long as confidence lasts. If that balance collapses, we'll remember what debt truly is, a promise that cannot survive forever. If this perspective made you think differently, hit subscribe. History has the clues. I'm here to help you find them.